Hi everyone! Welcome again to another edition of Storytime with Robbie. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying, and hope all you kids are enjoying being back at school. Today I'm going to be continuing with the back to school themed books. Now we only have 4 more editions left of the back to school themed books. So because we have to get that wrapped up to start some other themes coming up. So today I'm going to be reading 4 stories instead of 3. So today I'm going to be reading School's First Day of School by Adam Rex. And I will be reading We Don't Eat Our Classmates by Ryan T. Higgins. And I'm going to be reading Class Clown by Robert Munch. And I will be reading Pete the Cat's Got Class by James Dean. Hope you enjoy. Let's get started. Alrighty, everybody. The first story I'm going to read today is School's First Day of School by Adam Rex. Here we go. That summer, they dug up the big field and poured the foundation and set brick on top of brick until they built a school. A sign above the door read, Frederick Douglass Elementary. That's a good name for me, thought the school. Frederick Douglass Elementary. Most days, a man named Janitor came to mop the school and buff his floors and wash his windows. This is nice, the school said to Janitor. Just the 2 of us. Won't be just us for long, said Janitor. Soon the teachers will come and then you'll be filled with children. The school creaked. Children, all kinds of children. They'll come to play games and to learn. Oh, said the school, will you be here? You'll see me after the school day is over, said Janitor. Don't worry, you'll like the children. But the school thought that Janitor was probably wrong about that. Then they came, the children did, and there were more of them than the school could possibly have imagined. They got everywhere. They opened and closed all of its doors and lockers and drank water from its fountains and played on his jungle gym. So that's what that is for, thought the school. Some of the older kids gathered by the school's back fence and showed each other their bored faces. This place stinks, said one, and the school gasped. I hate school, said another with puffy hair. To the agreement of his friends, the school sagged a little. Frederick Douglass Elementary. One very small girl with freckles didn't want to come inside the school at all. Her mother had to carry her. I must be awful, the school whispered to himself. Later, he squirted the puffy-haired kid in the face, then felt bad about it afterward. He watched the kindergarten kids sit on one of his rugs. The teacher said, as we go around the circle, please tell us your name. There was Aiden and Max and Bella. The small girl with freckles was next, but she wouldn't speak. She only stared at her shoes until the teacher moved on. I don't like school, she whispered into her lap. Well, thought the school, maybe it doesn't like you either. And Chloe, and Caden, and Emma, and another Aiden. The children were in their chairs finally, but just as the school was starting to relax, his fire alarm sounded and all the children excited and walked to the other side of the field and stared at him. He was so embarrassed, he held his doors open for them when they returned. Sorry, he said as the first child entered. Sorry, 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 he told them all, even the girl with the freckles. At 12 o'clock, the school was filled with food. At 20:30, the school was filled with garbage. At one table, a boy told a funny joke. Another boy laughed so hard that milk came out of his nose. Now I'm covered with nose milk, thought the school. He had to admit that was a pretty funny joke, though. Even the girl with freckles liked it. After lunch, the kindergarten kids learned about shapes. A rectangle has 4 sides, said the teacher. 1, 2, 3, 4. And a square has 4 sides too. In fact, a square is actually a special kind of rectangle. Wow, said the school. I did not know that. Afterward, the children made pictures with glitter and paste. The girl with freckles made a picture of the school. It looks just like me, thought the school, except glittery. It's like she's known me all my life. Do you think I could have your picture? The teacher asked her. Don't tell anyone, but I think it's the best. The school thought she was probably right about that. The freckled girl smiled when the teacher stuck her drawing on the school wall with a pushpin. Ouch, said the school, but he didn't mind, not really. At 3 o'clock, the parents came to pick up the children. I was full of kids, the school told them, and I heard a joke and I accidentally had a fire drill, but everyone was nice about it, and I listened to a classroom and learned about shapes. You had a big day, said janitor. Do you think the school said, do you think you could invite everyone to come back tomorrow, especially that little freckled girl? Janitor nodded. I'll see what I can do. Later, janitor sat on top of the school and they watched the sun go down. In the beginning, I didn't know what I was, said the school. I thought I was your house. Nope, said janitor. I suppose some other place gets to be your house, the school added. Janitor nodded. That's true, but you get to be at school. That's lucky. And the school thought he was probably right about that. The end. And the second story I'm going to read today is We Don't Eat Our Classmates by Ryan T. Higgins. Here we go. Penelope Rex was nervous. It's not every day a little T-Rex starts school. Penelope, what are my classmates going to be like? Will they be nice? How many teeth will they have? This was very important. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Penelope's mom bought her a new backpack. Ponies were Penelope's favorite. because ponies are delicious. Penelope's dad packed her a lunch of 300 tuna sandwiches and 1 apple juice. Finally, the big day came, and Penelope Rex was very surprised to find out that all of her classmates were children. So she ate them because children are delicious. Penelope Rex said, Mrs. Noodleman, we don't eat our classmates. Please spit them out at once. So she did. It was not the best way to start school. Still, Penelope was determined to have a good first day. She tried hard to make friends at recess. She finger painted some of her best work. She even saved Griffin and Mary a seat at lunch. You can sit here. Penelope started to notice everyone was making friends but her. It was lonely. When she got home, her dad asked her about her first day at school. I didn't make any friends, Penelope cried. None of the children wanted to play with me. Penelope Rex, her father asked, did you eat your classmates? Well, maybe sort of, just a little bit. Sometimes it's hard to make friends, said her dad, especially if you eat them. You see, Penelope, children are the same as us on the inside, just tastier. That gave Penelope a lot to think about. The next day, Penelope tried really hard. Mrs. Noodleman, Penelope ate William Amonto again, but poor Penelope, she could not stop herself from eating her classmates. And they were all afraid of her, except Walter. Walter was a goldfish, so Penelope tried to make friends with him. Will you be my friend? Chomp! Eee! Cried Penelope. He's eating my finger! Wah! Once Penelope found out what it was like to be someone's snack, she lost her appetite for children. She stopped eating her classmates even when CCC Woodman spilled barbecue sauce all over herself. And soon Penelope made friends. What a brownie! I helped make them. Now, even when children look especially delicious, she peeks at Walter and remembers what it's like when someone tries to eat you. And Walter the goldfish stares right back at her and licks her lips. Because dinosaurs are delicious. The end. Hey everybody, the third story I'm going to read today is Class Clown by Robert Munsch. Here we go. When Leonardo was a baby, his mother laughed all the time. She said, "This baby is so funny." When Leonardo was 1 year old, his grandma and grandpa laughed all the time. They said, "This baby is so funny." When Leonardo was 3 years old, everyone laughed. They said, "This kid is so funny." When Leonardo was in grade 1, the kids laughed all the time. They said, "Leonardo is so funny. He is our class clown." But Mrs. Gomez said, "Leonardo, you have to stop. The kids are laughing all the time and nobody is learning. Stop being funny." "Okay," said Leonardo, and for the first time in his whole life, he stopped being funny. After 1 minute, Leonardo felt really strange. After 2 minutes, he felt a little bit sick. After 3 minutes, he started to chew his fingernails. After 4 minutes, he started to rock back and forth in his seat. After 5 minutes, he said, I know that Mrs. Gomez is really tired of me being the class clown, but I just have to do something funny. So Leonardo looked at the girl sitting next to him and made a funny face. The girl didn't do anything. So Leonardo made a really funny face, and the girl laughed so hard she fell off her chair and rolled around on the floor. Stop, said Mrs. Gomez, but the girl kept laughing. Stop, yelled Mrs. Gomez, and finally the girl stopped laughing and got back in her seat. What is going on? Said Mrs. Gomez to the girl. I was thinking of something very funny, said the girl. No thinking in my class, said Mrs. Gomez. Okay, said the girl. I will never think again. Good, said Mrs. Gomez. Leonardo couldn't stop. He said, I know that Mrs. Gomez is really, really tired of me being the class clown, and I will probably get in big trouble, but I just have to do something else funny. So Leonardo leaned over to the boy next to him and told a funny joke. The boy didn't do anything. So Leonardo leaned over again and told a really, really funny joke. And the boy laughed so hard he fell off his chair, rolled around on the floor, and kicked over his desk. Stop, said Mrs. Gomez. The boy kept rolling around on the floor. Stop, yelled Mrs. Gomez. What is going on? I remembered something very funny, said the boy. Well, don't remember anything in my class, said Mrs. Gomez. Okay, said the boy. I will never remember anything again. Good, said Mrs. Gomez. Leonardo was okay until after lunch. Then he said, I know that Mrs. Gomez is really, really tired of me being the class clown, and I'll probably get in big trouble, but I just have to do one last funny thing. So while Mrs. Gomez was writing on the chalkboard, Leonardo drew a funny picture and held it up so everyone could see it. Nobody laughed. So Leonardo drew a really, really funny picture. He held it up, and all the kids in the class laughed so hard they fell off their chairs, rolled around on the floor, and knocked over their desks. Stop! Yelled Mrs. Gomez. What's going on? It's Leonardo, all the kids yelled. He's being the class clown. Leonardo, said Mrs. Gomez, I have told you to stop being a clown, and now I am really getting really, really mad. Okay, said Leonardo, I will never, ever be funny again. Ha! Said Mrs. Gomez, and she laughed so hard she fell down and rolled around on the floor and kicked over her desk. She said, Leonardo, you are so funny. And that was when Leonardo decided that when he grew up, he was going to be a clown. The end. Alrighty, everybody. The fourth story I'm going to read today is Pete the Cat's Got Class by James Dean. Here we go. It's math time, says Pete's teacher, Mrs. G. Pete the cat loves math. He loves how the numbers work together. If I add 3 red blocks and 4 yellow blocks together, how
how many blocks would we have in all? Says Mrs. G. Pete raises his hand. 7 blocks, says Pete. 3 plus 4 equals 7. Very good, Pete, says Mrs. G. Mrs. G asks the class a subtraction question. If I take 2 blocks away from 7 blocks, how many blocks will be left? Pete raises his hand, but the teacher calls on Tom. 9, says Tom. Pete feels bad for Tom. Tom is super smart. He can name all the dinosaurs. He just has trouble with math. Pete has an idea. He will help Tom become awesome at math. Helping is cool. On the bus home from school, Pete sits next to Tom. Do you want to come over to play? Tom asks. I got some cool new race cars for my birthday. Awesome, says Pete. We can do our math homework and then we can race the cars. I hate math, says Tom. You don't hate math, Pete tells Tom. You just don't love it yet. Pete sets up some blocks. If I add 5 blue blocks and 3 orange blocks together, how many blocks will I have in all? This is boring, says Tom. Can we play with my race cars? This gives Pete a great idea. Sure we can, he said. Pete lines up some race cars. If 5 red cars are going to the racetrack and 5 yellow cars are going to the car wash, how many cars are there on the road? He asks. Easy, says Tom. 10 cars, like a traffic jam. Now, what if 2 of the cars stayed home? Pete says. How many cars would be left? Says Tom, studying the lineup. 8 cars? Right, says Pete. See, I told you that math is awesome. Pete quizzes Tom on one math problem after the next. 4 cars minus 1. 3, says Tom. 8 cars plus 7, says Pete. 15, says Tom. I can't believe it. I'm doing math and I'm loving it. Pete and Tom do their homework. Let me know if you need my help, says Pete. Thanks, says Tom, but I know what I'm doing now. The next day, Pete hands in his math homework. Tom does too. After lunch, the teacher passes back their assignment. Pete and Tom each got 1 wrong. I'd like to see you 2 after class, Mr. G says. You both know not to copy someone else's homework, says Mrs. G. We didn't copy, says Pete. You both got the exact same answer wrong, Mrs. G tells them. How can we prove that we got the answers on our own, says Tom. I know, Pete tells him. Bring your race cars to school tomorrow. Why? Tom asks. You'll see, says Pete with a smile. What are the race cars for? Asked Mrs. G. To show you how Tom got to be so good at math, says Pete. The next day, Pete and Tom get to school early. Give Tom a math problem, Pete says. Any math problem. I'll get it right, says Tom. Without Pete's help, Mrs. G gives Tom 1 math problem after the other, and Tom uses the race cars to get all the answers right. Wow, says Mrs. G. I'm impressed. Pete helped me by making math fun, Tom says. I think that's something we can all learn from Pete, Mrs. G says. Take it from Pete, math is neat. Lunch, A plus. Tom. A plus. Pete. 4 plus 4 equals 8. 5 minus 2 equals 3. 6 plus 3 equals 9. 8 minus 5 equals 3. 11 minus 5 equals 6. 4 plus 4 equals 8. 5 minus 2 equals 3. 6 plus 3 equals 9. 8 minus 5 equals 3. 11 minus 5 equals 6. And that ends.
Everybody, really hope you enjoyed the books today. Thank you so much again for joining me and for watching. It's always a pleasure being with you and reading with you. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and please join me for the next edition of Storytime with Robbie, as we are going to be having a special Teachers Edition. Books all about teachers on the next edition of Storytime with Robbie. You won't want to miss it. I will see you then. Toodaloo.